The Magic Mechanic himself, Larry Perry.
Hey, thank you very much. Hey, it's 3 o'clock. Hi, folks. I'm Larry Perry, and you're tuned in to the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. So you new listeners know this is kind of an interactive automotive and mechanical advice program where we help you with your car problems and, well, just about anything mechanical. And it's been our pleasure to do so for over 31 years. Me personally, I'm an automotive shop owner, and I've been a master auto tech since 1982. To make the program work, we need your calls, and the lines are open at 844-580-9326. And to make it kind of simple to remember, if you can remember the 844 part and the station that you're listening to, which is 580 WDBO, so the number is really 844-580-WDBO. If you're just all numerical and everything, you can do it the old-fashioned way, 844-580-9326 or 844-580-WDBO. And remember, all your calls and your car questions get indexed and they get placed on our new Magic Mechanic YouTube channel. So other folks searching for answers like yours will be able to get the same needed information. Think about it. Folks will be able to play your car questions back 100 years from now. So that'll be kind of cool. Be just an information database once we get them all compiled. And you know, one of these days I'll be answering car questions and I won't even be around, you know, so that's pretty neat. So hopefully that information will be around to help a few folks along the way. Listen, it doesn't really make any difference what kind of car issue you got. It could be dash warning lights, you know, stability control, occupant sensors in the vehicle, seat belts, airbags. Any of those things, poor fuel economy, oil consumption on your engine, you're having to add oil quite frequently, maybe your AC's not working right, you go down the road, you get it up to 50 miles an hour, it's smooth, you get it up to 65, you got a vibration on the highway, warranty questions, maybe you got a recall notice in the mail. And you know, I've been around the block a few times, so antique and classic car questions, well, they're right up my alley. Whether it be carbureted, distributor, even if it's got the old crank that runs through the front bumper. And now you know we have to go back a few years for that. Any of those old car questions, classics, antique, your muscle cars. Folks, that's the stuff I grew up on, even though I have to work on the new stuff as well, you know. But as time goes on and a lot of these vehicles are getting older, you know, and there's fewer and fewer and fewer people to actually work on a lot of the older cars. I still take them in. Unfortunately, I'm the one that usually has to wind up working on them. Only one in the shop old enough to, you know. Things have changed, but yeah, so any of those types of car questions, I love taking them. I love to hear about your projects you got going on in your garage. Maybe you're restoring an old MG or an old Jaguar. You know, that stuff is great conversation. And we work on pretty much everything. We take questions on anything, whether it be a gasoline, a hybrid, you know, which is half electric and half gas, or a full electric vehicles. We got Chevy Volts running out our ears. I wish we could get parts a little quicker for them, and a lot of the stuff they don't make anymore. You imagine that 10-year-old cars, you can't get nothing for them, and it's just an absolute crazy town. So you having to know somebody in a secret organization to get a part for a lot of this stuff. So that keeps us pretty busy, just hunting down stuff like that. Diesel vehicles, a lot of the Ford trucks we get in, where it's called a fuel system disaster, where the fuel systems come apart in these things, and it's a very expensive thing. I can give you some helpful hints if you've got a Ford diesel truck on how to save yourself a whole bunch of money someday in the future. There's some preventive maintenance that you can do to those to prevent you from having a $10,000 fuel system repair bill. Also remember, I have a complete database of all the listed recalls and technical service bulletins from, well, up to present date. I mean, we go way back with the TSBs and recalls. So if you've been taking your car back to the dealer, especially a new car, and they're looking at the thing, you're dealing with a service writer, number one, that really doesn't know anything about a car, and he's got to translate all your information to a technician that's going to eventually look at it, and who knows what the work order is going to say. But if you're having repeated issues like that, it might be worth calling in and let me just pull up the TSBs there is on your vehicle. That's the first thing a mechanic should look at, but it's usually the last thing that they actually take the time to look at. So a lot of times, if you want to know because you'll never get a TSB notice in the mail. You'll get a recall notice, but not a TSB notice. And the TSBs are technical service bulletins. These are notices that only go out to the technicians that'll be working on your cars, not to the consumer in itself. So a lot of times, a problem that you're trying to address or get repaired, you don't know that there's this secret fix for it on page 39 in the secret technical service bulletin book, so but that's why we do the show. I've got all that information and I just love sharing it, me. So all you need to do is give us a call, 844-580-9326 or 844-580-WDBO. Give our producer the year, make, and model of your car or truck, van, motorhome, and a description of your problem. You'll be placed on a brief hold, and we're going to take your call in the order that we received it. Also, remember, for immediate help, you can call the shop number and speak to my general manager, JD, at 407-629-2661. If he's busy on one line, you can leave a message. He'll give you a holler back. We also want to mention our open mic feature. You can go to WDBO.com on your smartphone, and you can download the app, and you can leave us an open mic car question. Just give us the year, the make, and the model, and the issue that you're having, and we'll get to those and play them back after the bottom of the 4 o'clock news break. And some of them are absolutely hilarious. I mean, we get some that are a real hoot, and that way you can just kind of keep doing what you're doing, and around 4:30, make sure you turn your radio up or internet or smart speaker or whatever you're listening to us on, and you'll hear that playback of your car question. You can also ask a car question by emailing me, Larry@magicmechanic.com. I get a bunch during the course of the show over the next couple hours. I can't guarantee I will get to all of them during the show, but I will do my best to fit a few of them in towards the end of the program. And if not, I will answer those emails by the first of the week, and that is Larry@magicmechanic.com. I think our first caller up here today is going to be Paul here in Orlando with a 2015 Subaru Forester. Paul, tell us what's going on with this thing.
All right. Afternoon, Larry. This is Paul. Talked to you a couple times. I've got 3 areas of questions. First of all, it makes a noise from the rear of the car since we got the car on occasion, and you can hear it when it's real quiet, and then I can recycle the key and the noise goes away. I think it's the evap system or solenoid system doing funny things. Then I got an acceleration problem where you step on the gas, it may not go, but before I go and change the accelerator and the throttle body, this only seems to happen when you're like stopped and you're making a turn. When you're making a turn in either direction, it'll hesitate, like you're pulling out of a driveway from a gas station and you make a right-hand turn or left, to get back into traffic. You got the wheel turn, you step on the gas, it doesn't go. Doesn't seem to happen in a straight line, to the best of my knowledge. And the third problem is my AC. I had a leak a couple years ago, put dye in the system, traced it down to the O-rings where the high and low pipes go into the TVX. Those O-rings were leaking, so I replaced those O-rings. Everything's good for about a year, and then it was low on Freon a month ago, say. Put a little in, and everything seemed to be okay. I've been watching it. Go down to Fort Lauderdale for a cruise. Everything's good. Comes back, And the car sits in the garage for a week because the wife didn't go anywhere. And we get in the car to go out to dinner that Saturday night, and there's zero AC. The compressor's not turning. So the next day I throw my gauges on it, and nothing moved. I mean, I thought the gauges were broke. Nothing moved. So I depressed the Schrader valve. Nothing came out. Absolutely nothing. So instead of putting Freon in, I pulled it down with a vacuum, and it seemed to hold it, but didn't hold it really that well at 30 inches. Held it pretty good at 15. So I said, okay, I'm going to put 1 can of Freon in with some dye and watch it for a week, and this should be pouring out somewhere. Well, it didn't. And this has been about 3 weeks now, and it's still got the Freon in there, but I still see some seepage, and I've gone around this car like every other day for 3 weeks, with the IR flashlight, and I only see a little bit leaking. I keep cleaning the area up at that same area at the TVX. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is evacuating the system and putting in those O-rings again, and I just don't understand why I got zero. I'm not at all when I depress the Schrader. So I consider that really weird, like somebody evacuated the system sitting in my garage.
Like somebody stole your refrigerant.
That's about it. So, I mean, I expected the refrigerant to last for a day and dye to be everywhere. I also checked the water coming out of the evaporator on the garage floor several times, and I don't see any dye in the water. So the evaporator is probably okay. I'm probably going to end up in the same area if nothing else happens. So
yeah,
those are my 2 areas of questions.
Paul, this is one of those things where I can't see it. Unfortunately, that's one of the downsides of doing a radio show. I can't see what you're talking about there. But when you get a leak like that, and I understand what you're saying. Everything was working, and then all of a sudden your refrigerant's gone. After a couple of weeks, now you put refrigerant back in it, and it's still got refrigerant there. There is a few things that can cause an AC leak like that. Most AC compressors have a pressure relief valve on them. For some reason or other, it could have maybe stuck and then resealed. I see stuff like that. That's pretty strange. Dye and an ultraviolet light is a great way to find a leak on an automotive air conditioning system. But I will tell you, I am a die-hard electronic leak guy myself. I love using electronic leak detectors. They just draw me to the leak, because they sit there and they make a repetitive beep, and I can zoom in on them pretty good. So that might be something you want to try just to get a little more comfort level that you're addressing the right place. Now, as far as this hesitation goes, Paul, I'm going to tell you, if you get the hesitation when you're making a left or a right-hand turn, if it's doing it while the vehicle is in motion and not just starting off from a turn, to a turn, you might have a baffle inside the gas tank that's loose and actually pulling the actual fuel pump out of the gas when it's lower on fuel. I'm going to tell you what I would do. Before I replace the electronic throttle body, I would put a fuel pressure gauge on this thing, a long one, tape it to my windshield, and go out here in the middle of a parking lot and start doing donuts and see if I get a fluctuation in my fuel pressure. Thanks for being our first call today. You have a great weekend, Paul.
Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show here on WDBO, the show that can help you with any problem you may be having with your car or truck. From a sound to a sound you've never heard before, to shaking of the steering wheel, to your Christmas tree dashboard, we can help you with any problems like that. Just call 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO, or leave an open mic in the WDBO feature. We got some calls already in. Keep them coming for the show in the next hour as well. Larry, we're going to go to Christensen in Merritt Island. Christensen, you're live with the Magic Mechanic.
Yeah, I have a 1999 GMC Sierra, and the problem with this, I get the brake light and the ABM light at the same time, and it stays on. If I turn it off and then start it back up again, it's off for, it could go off for days, and sometimes it's off for weeks, and then it comes back. And I was wondering, I was told that there's no modules available for the ABS, and someone said if they take it out, the module, and solder it with silver solder, all the connections, they would cure it. And I was wondering if you know anything about that or have any other suggestions. Appreciate it.
Well, Christensen, let me tell you like this. That vintage GM pickup truck had a lot of problems with the ABS control modules. And what the problem with it was, hydraulically, we didn't really have any problems out of them. But what winds up happening is these things have their own relay built inside the control module itself, the anti-lock brake control module. And they could do a couple things. One is we get them in the shop where it would be somebody who'd come in there and they'd say, well, get up in the morning and daggone thing, I hear a noise and my battery's dead, or there's not enough voltage in it to start the truck up. And what would happen is that internal relay in that anti-lock brake control module would literally weld itself together. And when you shut the vehicle off and took power away from the actual activation of the relay, it still had power going to it. So that pump motor would run all the time. The other thing would be is that relay that is in there would actually get to the point where it would just start working intermittently. And if it didn't make contact to activate the pump on the ABS control module, you'd still have brakes, but you wouldn't have any anti-lock brake feature of the system. And in your case, with that light coming on and off, I'd be willing to bet you whenever this happened, the relay itself in that control module isn't activating the pump. And it can't do its self-test, so therefore the light will stay on during the duration of that key cycle. Now, what you need to do is, you're in Merritt Island, I'd like for you to take it to a parts store, an AutoZone or an O'Reilly or whoever, and have them do a scan on this thing. See, even though you don't have a service engine light on, we can still get a code out of that vehicle for that anti-lock brake system. And I think what we're going to have when you have it scanned is probably ABS, circuit failure, something along those lines, because the main computer is going to realize that it wasn't functioning during a particular key cycle. So it's going to tell you that there was a no voltage or low voltage or circuit failure, something along those lines. And what you'll wind up with is it'll all turn out to be the actual pump relay, the ABS control module itself. Now, if somebody can repair it with silver solder, more power to them. I wouldn't want the liability of that. I would probably try to find you a remanufactured one, bolted on there, and you know what, Christian, I think your problem will be solved. I wish you the best, and thanks for your call.
Bad fuel injector.
Well, the only thing the computer can do is send a ground signal out to that injector to make it operate. So I'm trying to, figure out. I'm trying to think of what code they could possibly be getting that's telling them, oh, you got a bad injector, and I'm not really buying that. I think you got a misfire on number 4, but John, it's kind of like this. If the injector is not working and you replaced it, I doubt very seriously you got another bad injector. What did the terminal look like that actually plugs onto it? Did you see anything that was corroded or anything in the actual connector itself?
On the connector of what, the computer?
No, for the injector itself, the terminal.
No, it looked fine. I mean, my initial thinking was that it's a bad coil or plug or something in addition to that injector. but I don't want to just go be a part, changing out parts.
Well, a coil and a spark plug is pretty cheap, John. I would tell you to.
I think that would be my next.
Yeah, usually, it's kind of like this. If you get a misfire on a cylinder, it's not it's not uncommon for a coil to, with 100,000+ mile on it to start arcing and giving us a problem, So usually put a spark plug in it and a coil if you're chasing a misfire like that, and then see what happens. As far as the injector goes, it's like this. You might want to, if it sounds like you're a bit of a do-it-yourselfer, just get you some Noid lights. They're cheap. You can buy them at Harbor Freight, I think. Just an inexpensive set for a do-it-yourselfer, and just plug a Noid light into that injector terminal, start the vehicle up, and see if you're getting a steady light. If you're getting a steady light going to that injector, then take you a long screwdriver, put it up on the injector itself, and put it up to your ear, and just make sure you're getting a steady click out of it. That's all that injector is going to do. It's not uncommon we get bad injectors, but it's not that often. Usually our injector issues, when we get them in, usually just run an injector cleaner through them through our high pressure cleaning system, usually cleans them up. It's rarely you got to replace them. The ones we do wind up replacing are on vehicles that's been setting for 10 years and somebody wants to bring them back to life. But injectors, they last a long, long time. It's hard to wear them out. The electrical parts of them hold up pretty good. Now, this is for the port injectors. This isn't for the direct injectors. That's a whole different animal. But in your case, let's put a coil and a spark plug in it, see what happens. Is the misfire intermittent or is it constant, John?
No, it's constant.
Now, listen, there's one thing I'm going to tell you on that motor, and it's not uncommon. We see this. And you can't overlook this. As bad as this is going to sound, put you a coil and put you a plug in it, and if that don't straighten it out, you can take a Noid light and put it on your injector terminal. See if you're getting a steady pulse there. Listen to see if you hear that injector clicking. Now that's about all you can do. Now next step is to run a compression test on it, and if you have compression, say anything over 110 pounds. Is that's going to ignite the fuel, but this is the key to it. On that vehicle, it's not uncommon, and there's many mechanic out there listening and waiting for this one. They know what's coming. That's a roller cam and roller lifter in that engine, and those rollers on those lifters will lock up, and when they do, they will literally wear the lobe right off the camshaft on that engine. And when it does, let's just say for an example, if it's an intake, well, it's not letting any air into the cylinder in order to make the combustion. It won't have any compression because the camshaft lobe is wore out because of the roller on the lifter. It locks up and it'll wear that lobe right off that camshaft. And we see that on that particular engine all the time. So, and they won't make a noise. They won't make a bit of noise, John. You won't even know this is happening. And what you'll need to do then at that point is pull the rocker covers off of the motor, and then you can actually start it up. It's going to make a little bit of an oily mess, but you can sit there and look at your rockers, and you probably at that point see one that's not moving. All the other ones are going to be going up and down pretty good, but you'll look and you'll see one that's just sitting there almost completely stationary, and that's going to tell you right there that you're going to be pulling the motor apart. And to get to the lifters on that engine there, you got to pull the cylinder heads. So, but, I'm just telling you this. Do the coil and the plug, and then run a compression test. If it don't look good or whatever, pull the cam covers, look at the rocker arm travel. You're probably going to find one that's just not happy compared to the other ones. John, I wish you the absolute best of luck, and keep me informed on how this thing goes. Larry at magicmechanic.com, and I'll be there to hold your hand throughout it if I need to. All right?
Oh, I appreciate it, Larry.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Thank you, John, for that call. Now we move to Bubba, who's been on the show quite often, I think, Larry. Bubba, you're on with Magic Mechanic.
Yeah, Larry.
Bubba, you're famous.
Really?
Bubba, you're famous. You know that?
Yeah, blah, blah. How'd your turkey day go? How's the family? Everybody well?
We flew up to West Virginia and spent a few days with Mom and Dad, and it was a wonderful Thanksgiving.
God bless you.
Wonderful
God
Thanksgiving.
bless you, son. And you had a winter coat on.
No, I was probably the only idiot there wearing a T-shirt.
Duh! Oh, shit. Okay. Well, but you still had the snow shovel in your hand.
No, the weather. We West Virginia, Huntington, West Virginia. It was about I'm going to say we were probably about 14, 15 degrees cooler than it was here, so it really wasn't that bad. They have not had any bad weather yet, so it's been a very mild November, so it wasn't that bad at all.
Good for you, son. Glad y'all back home safe and sound.
Thank you, Bubba.
All right, Cadillac,
All right.
2014 STS. Not too sure about all of them numbers. And when we get done here, please put back on all your sponsors because we would support them as well.
Thank
the
you,
body
Bubba.
and fender guy. My friend's got the gas cap cover fell off the Cadillac. The hinge is still there, which opens and operates, and they can still pull that, open it, and put the gas in, or pull the gas cap. But the cover plate, kaploop,
Okay.
fell off. How can I glue that back on? Is it like a silicone and try to line it up real good with little cardboard shims or something and line it up real good? Because if it's not lined up, it doesn't. Some of them you have this little button you push inside the Cadillac on the driver's door, click, and the gas cap cover comes open.
Yeah.
But not this one.
This one, I think you push on it, and then it opens.
Bottom corner, and it's supposed to open up, but he loaned it to a guy, and the guy, I don't know, may have put a screwdriver or something, and I don't see any scratches on either piece.
Oh, wow.
It looks intact.
I think that flap on that Cadillac comes with the hinge. So if you get a new, fuel tank filler door is what they're going to call it. It should come with the hinge already attached to the door itself. And then a person just has to bolt it in, and then the latching mechanism, as long as a person knows how to use the door and push it in to open it, it should be fine. I just pulled it up, Bubba. There's a few of them on eBay. 13 to 18 Cadillac ATS sedan. There's used ones on there. If you go on to eBay.com, you probably just put in 13 to 18 Cadillac ATS fuel door, and they'll pop up. And the reason I'm telling you that is you might be able to find one exactly the same color that you need. You see what I'm saying here?
Oh, yeah, sure.
That way you don't have to take it and worry about painting it. You probably be able to find one exactly the same color that you need.
No, sir. We have the cover, and the hinge is still there. He still has to open the hinge to pull the cap and put fuel in it, and the cover is laying on the floorboard. So
Okay.
we can attach that.
Well, if the thing is, though, I think it was molded or bonded into that hinge. I don't think it bolts into it.
Yeah, no bolts. It had to be spring or plastics. Maybe some little plastics are broken that I didn't see. I guess my question is, like a heavy black silicone? Like
No.
usually
Listen,
on the
even
doors?
Bubba, if you're going to try that, send him down to the shop. If you're going to try that, send him down to the shop. I've got the absolute most durable magic stuff there ever was on this planet. and if it don't, if it does not, if it does not rebond it, it's not going to be bondable. But I'll be more than glad to try that for him. If we can bond it back on, I've got the stuff that will do it. The best stuff there is to do it. As silicone or anything like that's just a waste of time. What we have here is the actual. It's the material they use to bond plastic body panels together in a new car. When they put a brand new car together, they use this particular product to actually bond the plastic pieces together. And once it's bonded, it will not come back off. It's just not possible. You'll rip the part before you'll rip where it's actually rebonded to. So, yeah, send him by, and I'll be more than glad to put a nice squirt of it on each one of the hinge areas, and we'll slap that cover back on there, and that'll probably fix it. We'll give that a shot. Thanks for your call, Bubba, as always.
Thanks. Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show here on WDBO, the show that can help you with any problem you may be having with your car or truck. 844-580-9326. We're going to go to the phone lines right now while we have a few minutes here before the end of the first hour. James from Orlando's got a question for Larry. James, you're on air with the Magic Mechanic.
Hey, Larry, how you doing?
We're doing great, James.
Good. We've had this Buick for about 10 years, and the temperatures always run around 210. It never fluctuated. And we found out the mechanic said it had a leaking water pump. We noticed the temperature go up to about 220. It wouldn't overheat. It would just go up. So we had that replaced. But we went to South Carolina the other day, and you're going down the interstate about 70 mile an hour, and the temperature would go up to about 220. But as soon as you slowed down or you put in a rest stop or an exit, the temperature would go back down to normal.
In most cases, James, if you have a vehicle that when you're out on the interstate, you got to think of it like this. Even if your electric cooling fan was not working, you've got just the force of the air at that highway speed being forced through it. So technically it wouldn't be a fan problem or anything that had to. None of the accessories or electronic components it's got to activate to cool the cooling system down. It kind of eliminates all that. Usually when we get one like that, it's usually a restriction in the cooling system. And the most common place for a restriction in the cooling system is usually a radiator. It's over time, sometimes if coolant hasn't been changed properly as the vehicle aged, especially GM coolant, it can get sludgy, and that stuff will start plugging up the lower part of your radiator, and next thing you know, there's enough cooling capacity in the radiator at low RPMs, but when you're at a higher RPM, it's just not got enough capacity left in order to cool that coolant down. So it makes a big difference. You can get by with a restricted radiator at low speeds and idle speeds, but if you get into a situation where you're constantly running, at 1,800, 2,000 RPM, then a restricted radiator, that's when they'll show themselves, and that's when you'll see that there's actually a problem with it. Has the radiator ever been replaced in it, James?
Not that I know. Not in the 10 years we had it. So
yeah.
I don't know if it ever had. They checked all the fans and stuff.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where, the radiators nowadays, they're not that expensive. An aftermarket radiator for your car isn't that big of a deal. That stuff we replace every day, and it doesn't break the bank as long as you don't take it back to the local dealership.
But I found that out with the water pump.
Yeah. You got a 10-year-old vehicle. There's no warranty on it. To take it to a dealership, pay almost twice as much as it would cost at an independent shop that's got mechanics that's been in the business longer than the kids that are in the dealership. You got to look at it like that. I mean, it's just, you get a lot more talented technicians in your independents. In most cases, they'll always be usually one or two guys in the dealerships that's been around for a while, but most of them are just younger guys. They ain't even broken in yet. So, but find your talents. The talented techs, you're going to find them in your independents that's been around a long time. You get guys that's been in there working on this stuff for 40 plus years. There's not a value that you can put on that. But under the circumstances in your case, put a radiator in it. It's not going to break the bank if it doesn't fix it, but I have a good gut feeling that'll probably take care of it. Thanks for your call, James. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, James. A whole nother hour of the Magic Mechanic coming up here shortly here on WDBO 844-580-9326. Please call in. Let us know what your questions are on a car or truck that you got going on, from dashboard Christmas lights to hearing the sound while you're driving. We'll be right back to the... Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show for this second hour here on WDBO. The show that can help you with any problem you may be having with your car or truck. Whether you're hearing a sound when you're driving you've never heard before, your steering wheel shaking around when you come to a stop, or your dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree, we can help you with any problems like that for your vehicle. You just have to call 844-580-9326, 844-580-9326, or leave an open mic in the WDBO app. That's coming up shortly here in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Now, the Magic Mechanic himself, Larry Perry.
Hey, thank you very much. Hey, welcome to the second hour of the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. It's a show where you call in, you ask your automotive questions, and, well, you can't beat the price because it's absolutely free. That number is 844-580-9326. And remember, I try to make it as simple as possible, so it's 844 and the radio station that you're listening to, which is 580 WDBO. Also, we take your automotive questions and my comments, and we place them on our new YouTube channel. So other folks that's looking for the same type of information may find the same help that you're seeking. Plus, you'll be able to play it back anytime you want. That number again is 844-580-9326. Or if you want to make it to where you can't forget it, like me, 844-580-WDBO. All you got to do is just replace the letters with numbers, like you would on your keypad, 580 WDBO, and remember the 844, and shoot, man, we'll have you lined up and get your car question all indexed, year, make, and model, and a little bit of what's going on with it, and we'll get you up here in line on the board, and we'll get to you here in just a few minutes. We've only got a couple calls on, so it'd be a great time for you to go ahead and hop on board. 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. And if you'd like, you can also give us a call and speak to my general manager, JD, at the Magic Mechanic Shop. If you need immediate help or want him to give you a call back about maybe getting your car in or whatever, that number is 407-6292-661. And if he doesn't pick up the phone, which he's liable to have snuck off and maybe out bass fishing or something, he likes to do that once in a while. But if you can't get a hold of him, just leave a message, and as soon as he gets a chance, he will give you a call back. Folks, our sponsors are very important to the show. We all pitch in to bring you the program every week, so if you enjoy it, please patronize our sponsors and tell them you heard about them here on the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. Orlando Auto Upholstery, interior, convertible tops, carpet, seats, whether it be on a car, truck, van, boat, it doesn't make any difference. Even commercial, industrial equipment, semis, they can do upholstery on anything, pretty much. Door panels. If you're in the middle of a vehicle restoration and you need somebody you've just got an idea of what you want. Well, these are the folks that you want to get a hold of. They can make your interior dreams become a reality, especially when it comes to an older car, a restoration project, something along those lines. I mean, I see stuff that winds up, their stuff is in the vehicles that are in car shows. Their interiors are in classic and muscle car vehicles that goes through the Mecum auction for $500,000. That's the quality of work that they do. And it doesn't matter if you just need the driver's side of a Mercedes seat repaired, or your Tahoe or your SUV. If you got some worn leather, they'll take care of that too. So and those types of repairs are very inexpensive. I mean, you don't have to drive around in something that looks like the Beverly Hillbillies owned it for 10 years. I mean, have a little class, get your seat fixed. Why you want a big old hole in it and see foam sticking through it? That's embarrassing. Seriously. Visit them at OrlandoAutoUpholstery.com. You can give them a call at 407-898-2351. Amsoil, synthetic lubricants for your car, truck, van, SUV, boat, motorcycle, tractor, bulldozer. Folks, if you don't want it to wear out, put Amsoil in it. I'm going to go a little further here during their promotion, I guess is what you want to call it. It's commercial. I want to make sure that the sponsor gets mentioned. But I'm going to tell you what we done. We had a customer had a new 3.5 EcoBoost motor put in an F-150. And we got done with it. We had to put brake-in oil in it. Now, this is the 3.5 V6 with the twin turbos. The very common engine in F-150s. Have been since around 2011, 2012. Well, this one got a brand spanking new engine. And we put the brake-in oil in it. And told him to put 3,000 miles on it. Then we put the Amsoil in it. So he did. He brought it back, and one of the things he was complaining about, he said the engine just seemed so much rougher than his old worn-out motor. That's kind of embarrassing. We just put a new motor in it. And he said his fuel economy was horrible. And I said, there's no check engine light on or anything like that. I said, you're just in the middle of a break-in period. I said, we'll put the Amsoil in it, and we'll see what happens. We put the Amsoil in it. And I'm going to tell you, he come back about 2 weeks later. He said, he goes, you all didn't do anything else to this truck except change my oil? I said, I'm serious. That's all we done to it. We put the Amsoil 530 in it because it was a twin turbo. And he sat there and he come out and he showed us on his dash. He says, when he goes, I get around 580 miles to a tank of fuel because he had a 36-gallon fuel tank. He goes, and and before I had this, after I got this new motor in it, he goes, I'd fill it up and it'd say 540 miles to empty. He goes, and the best I could figure it, he goes, I was only getting about 15 miles a gallon. He goes, now you all put this Amsoil in there, and he goes, let me just tell you. He goes, now I am getting 640 to 650 miles to empty every time I fill it up. And I got to figure, and I said, so you were getting 540 with the conventional oil in your engine? He goes, yeah. And, we figured that up. Now, this is taking the conventional oil that was in there for break-in purposes and putting the Amsoil in this engine. Now, I want you to listen to this. It went to, he was getting about 640 miles to empty. So we went and we figured this compared to what he was getting before we put the Amsoil in it. Do you know that was almost a 17% increase in fuel economy just by changing that man's oil? 17% fuel economy. Better because we put Amsoil in it as opposed to the regular conventional oil we were using for break-in purposes. You think about that. 17%. That's not count. Can you imagine an engine that has that much friction taking place inside of it? That the Amsoil literally just friction-free the engine is what basically happened. And as far as his idle quality goes, it is as smooth. I'm telling you, you can't tell the engine is running in gear with the AC on. It is as smooth, you wouldn't know there was an engine in that truck just by changing his oil to Amsoil. And, I got to thinking about that. Most people that don't know anything about engine oil or how it works or anything like that will drive a vehicle like that all of its life. And just take that as being normal. And then, of course, 150,000 mile, they need a motor anyway. But to think of that type of an improvement over changing your oil, I'm like, that is absolutely outstanding. I made it a point to tell you, to find out more about Amsoil, go to Amsoil.com. And look, and if there's any questions, if they don't have the answer for it, call me or email me. It is an incredible product. That's the reason I have touted it since 1992. And I have got, well, I can say thousands and thousands and thousands of customers that has used it and have been very, very pleased with the longevity of their vehicles as well. Amsoil.com. Then we got Jasper Engines and Transmissions. If you're going to repower a vehicle, motor, transmission, anything like that, these are high-dollar items. You know, you're going to have to buy a good product, and you're going to have to pay somebody that has a clue of what they're doing to put it in and get it installed correctly, so you don't have repetitive problems as long for the rest of the car's life. So when you do this, the most important thing is, of course, is to find a good quality shop to do the installation. But the second thing is you got to make sure that you buy a quality product. If you don't, it could be the biggest expensive nightmare you have ever been through in your whole entire life. And when it comes to something like that, it's like picking a heart doctor, somebody that's going to do your bypass. The last thing in the world you're going to do is look for somebody that's going to give you the best deal. It's just maybe not worth it. But when it comes to an engine or transmission, you want something, not only is it going to be a quality product, but it's warranted. They got a great warranty. You know, Jasper engines or transmissions, they come with 100,000-mile warranty. Longest there is in the industry. They warranty these products longer than the manufacturer did when the vehicle was brand new. Think about that. So it's a quality product. You're going to get a lot of life out of it. It's not just a local Magic Mechanic install one. You got a warranty in Seattle, Washington. It's a nationwide warranty. So, and if you go to sell the vehicle before you ever hit the warranty period, it's going to make the vehicle more valuable as well. So, you know, one of the biggest things we do a lot of them in is fleet vehicles, that sort of thing, because they got to get the money back out of them. Handicap vans. You can't imagine how many repowers we do in handicap vans. People don't realize how expensive those things are to buy when they've been set up for a handicapped person to be able to operate these vehicles or to be, use them for travel. And those, you don't throw them away. You repower them when it comes to it. They use Jaspers because they want to get the maximum back out of their investment. To find out more about Jasper engines or transmissions or their nationwide warranty, go to jasperengines.com. And last but not least, the Magic Mechanic Auto Service Center. It's located here in Orlando, Florida. Engines, transmissions, brakes, suspension, steering, electrical repairs, and of course, AMSOIL synthetic lubricants. You can visit us at magicmechanic.com. Email me directly, Larry at magicmechanic.com. We're going to go ahead and break for the three big things you need to know. And when we come back, we got Ellen, George, Jim, and Scott, and your call too. At 844-580-WDBO.
For the cup, they definitely.
Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show here on WDBO, the show that can help you with any problem you may be having with your car or truck. Call in 844-580-9326. That's 844-580-WDBO, or leave an open mic in the WDBO app. We're going to go to the phone lines here with the Magic Mechanic. Ellen from Kissimmee is going to be on here. She's got a question on a 2015 Ram 1500. Ellen, you're on with the Magic Mechanic.
Hi, Larry. Since being away this summer and our vehicle was in storage, we put ethanol-free fuel in it on your recommendation. Since we've been home, we've still had ethanol-free fuel in it and noticed that it's getting, between 2 and 3 miles more per gallon than we had been previously getting. My question is there any other benefit to the vehicle to continue to running ethanol-free fuel?
Well, that's ethanol-free fuel. When they first came out with it, Alan, we literally went and did the same thing. We ran it in several different vehicles just to try to get an idea of what consumers were going to wind up dealing with long term. Because ethanol fuel, when it came out, 10%, we had no idea what we were going to be dealing with as far as fuel systems, fuel economy, and everything else. And in every daggone vehicle that we tested, we got better fuel economy usually at around 9 to 10% with the ethanol-free fuel compared to fuel that had been laced with 10% ethanol. So this is where you run into a little bit of an issue. And there's no downside to running the ethanol-free all the time if you wish to do so. I wish that the ethanol-free fuel had a little bit of a higher octane rating. It's only 89, so it wouldn't be practical to really replace a fuel full time for a vehicle that required 92 or 93 octane fuel. So I wish that they had a 93 ethanol-free fuel as well, but they don't. Your vehicle should run absolutely fine on an 89 octane without having to run a 93. You should be able to run that constantly. Now, this is what you got to do. You got to do your math. 10% ethanol isn't going to really hurt anything on these newer vehicles. But you don't want to let it set. If you let it set, just in the time period that you were talking about, you could be dealing with having to replace the electric fuel pump and the gas tank and everything else because the fuel will fail that quickly. It literally separates the water or the alcohol or ethanol, you want to call it, out of the fuel, and it goes to the bottom of the fuel. And so what you wind up with is water, and your engine's not going to run off of that. And plus, it turns the fuel to a horrible, horrible, horrible substance that you couldn't even relate to gasoline. But you got to do the math, because you're going to give more money for the ethanol-free fuel. So if it works out to where the extra fuel economy that you're getting, the more miles out of the tank that you're getting, if it offsets what you were running previously with the ethanol, then by all means, I would run it constantly. The problem that you run into is there's, a lot of the Wawa stations carry it, but not very many other ones, carry the ethanol-free fuel. So it makes it kind of a pain. But I will tell you this. Run it if it makes financial sense. It's not going to hurt a thing. But for folks with boats and jet skis and, any type of equipment that's going to set for several months, like your generators or anything like that, I'm just telling you point blank, do not use any fuel that has ethanol in it. You never know when it's going to set for long periods of time. And if it does, you're going to be dealing with a great big huge expense. What really surprised me was during this last hurricane episode, I've got a standby generator that runs off of propane, which I'm very fortunate with that. We got several appliances in our home that runs off of propane, big tank in the front yard. But we have a backup generator for that if it was to fail, and it has gas in it. Well, I hadn't started that thing since 2017 was the last time we had used that one, and it still had the ethanol-free fuel in it. After all them years, it still smelled like gasoline, and that thing fired right up and ran like a brand new one. And now I'd ran all the fuel out of the carburetor, of course, but there was no side effects on 4-year-old fuel. It never had a single problem on it. Could you imagine if I'd have let regular ethanol fuel sit in that generator for 4 years? I'd probably been looking for a new generator. Ellen, if it makes sense, financial sense, by all means, run the ethanol free. Thanks for the call, and thanks for holding on.
Thank you, Ellen. Like Ellen, you can get your question answered here on WDBO with the Magic Mechanic. Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show here on WDBO, the show that can help you with any problem you may be having with your car or truck. From a sound to your Christmas light dashboard, we can help you with any vehicle problems like that. You just have to call 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO, or leave an open mic in the WDBO app. And Larry, that's where we find ourselves now in the open mic feature session of the show. And here is open mic number 1.
I wanted to see if Larry could give us the latest advice for the problematic Chevy 8-speed automatic transmissions. This one's in a 2018 diesel van. Thank you.
The first thing that you're going to wind up having issues with is usually the torque converter. If you're going down the road and you're feeling this shuddering taking place, it's usually the torque converter clutch slipping in the transmission. You know, and it's kind of like this. The transmissions, we have issues with them. If the vehicle's got, say, 80 to 100,000 mile on it, I mean, I hate to sound like the Grim Reaper here, but it's like this. You know, if we're going to pull the transmission out of these things, it's a good idea to probably, you know, to put a torque converter in. It's not a bad idea to go ahead and go through the transmission at the same time. You know, we have a builder that we use at Magic Mechanic. I don't build them like I used to, but I've got a gentleman that does building for me, and we can go through them and, you know, just make sure everything's in good shape, because you don't want to, if you're going to pull the transmission out anyway to do the torque converter, you know, because of them being so problematic, you know, on any other transmission, if it's got a bad converter in it and the tranny fluid's clean, throw the converter in it and be done with it. But on them transmissions, those 8-speeds, they've just been so many problems with them. GM, now, they replaced a lot of torque converters on a lot of these under a warranty or an extended type of warranty. So you may want to check with GM. Just to see if there's any kind of coverage for the torque converter on it. But if we're going to pull a transmission out of one of them, especially if it's four-wheel drive, I really strongly suggest just go through the unit while we've got it out, you know, and then put the new torque converter in it, and then you're off to the races. And also remember, on all them these newer GM trucks, you've got to put AMSOIL in the rear differentials. You have to. You don't have a choice in the matter. If you don't, you're going to wind up with a handful of shrapnel, and there's probably no parts to fix it with, and nobody's got a rear diff for that vehicle. And if you do get a used one, it probably needs to be rebuilt anyway. So those are some very problematic powertrain components in a lot of those trucks, and it's widespread. Everything from Cadillac to Silverados to GMCs, Yukons. I mean, it just goes on and on. Even you get into your smaller trucks, and you got those same type of issues. So those vintages from probably around 16, 17, and newer are the ones you really need to be concerned with. So make sure you service them with AMSOIL. It's the only prayer you got. I'll put it to you like that. Thanks for the call.
All right, next open mic.
Larry, I got a 2002 Honda Accord I've been using, 4-cylinder. I've been using AMSOIL most of the life of the car. I always use 030 signature, but they didn't have it, so I got 530 signature. So is there a difference between those two oils? Let me know. Thank you. Bye.
You're fine with the 530. Absolutely fine. The first number is the cold pour point of the oil before it's up to normal operating temperature. So we're in Florida. We don't have to worry about sub-zero oil. I like the 030 because it represents less oil pump drag during cold start, and the engine warms up a little quicker. You know, but it's going to retain that 30 weight viscosity at normal operating temperature, which is the important part. You know, Hyundais and Kias, where they've had to replace all these engines and just about everything that they've ever built from about 2011 and newer, do you know what they're specifying in their newer vehicles? I was hoping for an opportunity to mention this. I mean, these were 020 companies. I mean, that's what they specified, was 20 weight oils. That's all they specified for the last few years. But look what it got them. Billions of dollars in engine replacements. That's what the 20 weight got, Kia and Hyundai. Right now on these newer Hyundais and Kias, if it's above minus 18 degrees, now I hope everybody's listening to this. If it's above minus 18 degrees, they're giving you your own choice of oils. Now get a load of this. They recommend a 1030, a 1540, even a 2050. Can you? And this is a company that specified nothing but 020 for years, but it's about to put them out of business. You know, it's not the engines and the cost of the labor to install them in all these recalled engines. It is the rental cars that they're having to put all these customers in. It's about to break the companies. I'm like, can you imagine? You know, then you all know I don't put 20 weight in anything. I won't sell 20 weight oil. It is, especially the 16 weight oil. They're having people put that in brand new Toyotas. These people have gone mad. They've gone insane. But you know, like I have said all along, instead of using these 20 weights, use a 030 AMSOIL. I said, you got the best of both worlds. You got that low cold pour point that they're trying to get, and you've got a 30-weight viscosity to keep parts separated to get you 1,000,000 mile out of your motor. You don't have to follow those crazy recommendations that's going to do nothing but just destroy your engine. You know, but I said, when I seen this, I'm like, yeah, almost all these Kias and Hyundais now are recommending anything from 1030 to 2050. I think it's the old say, I think they've seen the light. You think? All right, let's get to our next open mic.
My son has a 2023 Toyota Camry 4-cylinder. It calls for 016 weight. People say the tolerances are so tight. I don't know if I agree with that. There's only so tight you can make a motor before it won't work. This is Mike in Port St. John. Thank you.
Oh, Mike. I want to tell you something. And the best thing I can follow this up with is a few months back I got a email from a machinist. This is a retired machinist. He said that he was, I think in his 80s, he'd retired from automotive machining. And he says, how could they run a 16-weight oil in a new engine? He said, you know, in order to make these things move, which you pointed out, you can only make them so tight. You know, cylinder wall and piston clearances are cylinder wall and piston clearances. And do you know the oil clearances on these rod and main bearings inside the engine? Why, they haven't changed since the invention of the internal combustion motor. You can't make them too tight. The ideal clearance, the ideal oil clearance on a rod or a main bearing is 1.5 thousandths. It was in the 1940s, and guess what? It still is exactly the same. If you were to make the tolerances any tighter than that, forget about the oil. Just the expansion of the metals alone would cause the engine to seize. So for them to come around and tell you, oh, these motors are so much tighter, we can run tap water in them for oil, it doesn't work like that. These people are crazy. Tell your son, 0W30 AMSOIL. Thanks for your open mic.
I have a 2019 Ford F-150 that's almost out of factory warranty. Just wondering what your thoughts are on a programmer for it to get a little better mileage out of it.
You know, I don't have a problem with it. The most important thing that I'll tell you with that is most people put a programmer on a vehicle to get more power out of it. You know, and in a lot of cases, if you do that and you go to towing something, it's important to put it back to its stock standard program for the PCM. But other than that, if it's something that you want to try, the good ones are about $500, just so you know. There's a few out there you probably buy for $20, but I wouldn't put them on my truck. You know, I wouldn't do it. But if you buy some of the quality, higher rated name brands, it shouldn't hurt anything. But you need to make sure when you take it in for service that you let the shop know what you are, that you do have a programmer on there. So that if they go to scan the vehicle, they're going to see some, things that are not spec, so to speak. So that's not going to be alarming to a technician when he starts looking at your data stream. But have fun. Thanks for the open mic.
And Larry, we got one more. You may recognize the voice.
Hey Larry, Pee Wee Floundman here. You're always extolling the virtues of AMSOIL, whatever extolling means. I've got a date with my girlfriend Doc tonight. Chain of my bike's rusty. WDBO producer Ron says it sounds like I have a cat stuck in the sprocket. That was so funny, I forgot to laugh. Help me, Larry. Things are getting pretty serious with me and Dot, if you know what I mean.
I can't explain it either.
Well, I wish him the best with Dot. And, I think some AMSOIL will probably get rid of that squeaky bicycle chain as well, Flounder. Thanks for the open mic, brother.
All right, back to the phone lines. Let's go to George from Orlando. George, you're on with the Magic Mechanic. What's your question?
Hey, Larry, this Coop here.
Oh, man. I thought it was about time for you to check in. What you got going on, George?
Well, Larry, they scared me to death because my tires were 11 years old and I had so much tread left, but they said they were dry rotting. And, so I changed them. Michelin don't make those symmetries anymore that they came with originally, with a narrow white wall.
Yeah.
And we found Continentals. And my problem is that these tires came in, and I can't get them clean. A dealer told me that they put this coating of soap on them to kind of, keep it from scratching.
Yeah.
But I've even had a professional detailer try to work on them to make them coconut white. I can't get them clean. I hate it.
Yeah. Let me tell you what, George, the tried and true for cleaning those white walls is a good old-fashioned Brillo pad. Those little steel wool pads will usually clean all of that debris off of them and make them just as white as chalk. But yeah, you just that next time you're at the grocery store, pick up a box of those Brillo pads with the soap in them, and get them good and let them set them water a little bit and get a little soapy, and just get out there and just take your time and just scrub those white walls, and buddy, they'll come out. They'll be just as white as snow when you're done with them. Take a picture of them and email them to me when you're done. All right.
Not computer, but I could bring you some pictures. I'll bring you the car. How's that?
All right, that'll work. George, thanks, buddy.
And the number to call is going to be 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. We got CJ, we got Scott, we got Don coming up in the last segment of the last hour of the Magic Mechanico coming up here on WDBO. We'll be right back.
And I was going to put it in the park, and it just slipped. And, I'm afraid to drive it. I don't want to ruin anything.
Yeah. Now, if you pull it all the way down, does it, do you feel, does it go, does the vehicle drive at that point?
I haven't tried. I don't know if I try to move it, is it going to ruin the transmission?
No. If you take it and you activate the shifter and you pull it all the way down, can you eventually feel it pulling on a gear?
No.
Okay. Well, then what it sounds to me like is that the shift cable has either broken, number one, or either it has become detached, either from the transmission shift lever or the actual shifter inside the vehicle, one of the two. Scott, some of those shifters, they have like a little detent bushing on the end of them. And when a mechanic, and then like on your shifter, they'll have like a little ball. And what happens is when the car was made, all they would do is just kind of squeeze the end of that shifter cable right onto that little ball detent on the actual shift part itself. And over time, and those things are made out of plastic, and over time those things will deteriorate. And when they do, there's nothing there to keep it attached to the shifter or the detent lever on the transmission itself. I'm going to be honest with you, if it was fine, the last time you drove it, and then all of a sudden you go to use it and it's doing this, it's just a shifter cable bushing that has gone bad on it. Those things are probably pennies for the bushing, but you'll have to get to it, in order to be able to install it. But I doubt the shifter cable broke. It's probably just a bushing that actually holds it on to either your shifter or the actual detent lever on the transmission itself. I hope that helps you. I don't think there's anything wrong with your transmission. There's probably nothing wrong with the shifter cable. It's probably just those detent bushings are going to have to be replaced on each end of the shifter cable itself. Best of luck, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. We're going to go to CJ in Orlando. CJ, you're on with the Magic Mechanic.
Hey, good afternoon, Larry.
Hey, CJ.
I have a 21 HRV, and that's a Honda, and the radio it does weird things. If you're listening to FM and you have a standard FM radio station on, the HD2 or HD3 radios stations will bleed over on it. Is that kind of typical for an HD radio?
No, it's not. No, it's not at all. I love HD radio. I mean, that's how I listen to this station in my truck. Because I get no static, no backfeed, nothing overriding. It's just as clear as it can be, and I can listen to it anywhere in Central Florida, including usually Tampa and even Ocala. I mean, so it's got an incredible range. And, of course, if you listen to this station, it's 96.52 on HD radio. And you can pick it up anywhere. Static-free, crystal clear. It is just an amazing thing. You can pick it up all the way down to Vero Beach on the Turnpike. I mean, it's amazing how far that distance is, but most folks don't even know how to use the HD radio. But in your case, if you've got an issue like that, I'm going to say it's probably something in the head of the radio itself. That's most likely what's going on. I looked, and I didn't see any technical service bulletins pertaining to this on this 21 HRV, but I would probably bring it up to the dealer the next time you're in for anything and let them do some research on it and see if maybe they can give you a hand with it. Don in Orlando, I'm not going to have time to get to you, brother. Larry at magicmechanic.com, and I'll take care of whatever your question is. Thanks for tuning in. You listeners, customers, show sponsors are the reason we do the show, and I have a job. You can tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time in Central Florida on 107.3 FM HD Radio, 96.52 and AM 580. Worldwide at WDBO.com, and click Listen Live or just tell your smart speaker to play WDBO Radio every Saturday at 3 p.m. If you need help with your vehicle, you can always call Magic Mechanic at 407-629-2661. Visit our website, magicmechanic.com, or you can also email your car questions directly to me, Larry at magicmechanic.com. Until next week, be safe in and out of your car. We'll see you back here next Saturday at 3 p.m. And don't forget to check out that Magic Mechanic YouTube channel.